Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. It is a pleasure to have you here for our third video in our Collectors Week for 2024. So we're doing this alongside all of the people over at the LSS team and the Flesh and Blood community. I'm not directly affiliated with them, but I figured this was a nice idea because I don't often talk a whole lot about collecting here on the channel, and I kind of wanted to push that love to them. So we've already done 2 videos, so if you haven't gone to check those out, I do suggest checking out those videos. Very, very cool topics and very informative, just like this one. Today's video is going to be for pretty much everybody. I know I love talking about master sets, but this is truly something that I believe is going to be a great amount of information for new players or new collectors into Flesh and Blood and how they can better grow their collection without having to kind of break the bank in a way, right? So I have about 5 tips here, and I actually have a 6th kind of at the end of the video. So if you guys want to get a special extra tip here for collecting Flesh and Blood, make sure to stay around towards the end of the video. But I wanted to go ahead and start off by giving you guys an example of what it's like to collect Flesh and Blood. If you have nothing in Flesh and Blood, I promise you, going to your locals and asking for bulk is a great way to begin your collection in Flesh and Blood. I understand it's probably going to be a lot of non-foils, or maybe there are even going to be some foils. I often get foils in my own bulk, and it's very, very nice to see because those foils get to go right into master set binders or right into other collections. But bulk is just bulk. At the end of the day, all it does is it gives you a nice little starting point. But if you're collecting master sets, it's a very, very nice way to begin your collection because most people will give you bulk for free. If you just ask and people have it laying around and they're not going to do anything with it, they will normally just give you the bulk. Now, if they don't and they say that they will not be giving you any bulk, don't cry and complain about it. It's not the end of the world. There are places where you can buy bulk for super cheap. Places like MinMax Games has little like bulk 1,000 count boxes of every single set of Flesh and Blood pretty much available outside of like some first edition stuff. And you can always go ahead and go on there and find some bulk to get you started. So that way you don't have to buy each individual card from TCG Player, for instance. Do not ever do that. Don't buy non-foils if you can help it. Don't buy any non-foil rares or commons from TCG Player if you can help it. Ask your locals, ask your LGS. They'll probably have something there for you that they can get you for like, 5 cents so you don't have to pay on all that shipping. But if it is your only option, totally understandable. But that is a great way for you to start. Just get bulk from places and you spend significantly less. I still even think just go to MinMax and go check out that stuff because you're not guaranteed every single rare and common in there, but you get a lot. You get a lot out of it. 1,000 cards in bulk is more than likely going to be enough for you. The next thing I want to talk about, speaking of sellers like MinMax Games, is you should find different sellers and compare pricing. If you're looking for that special Marvel or a cold foil or something of the sort, you should always be making sure that you're checking for any deals that people might be having across the internet. You have places like eBay, you have places like TCG Player, and you even have like Facebook sellers. One of those Facebook sellers is actually none other than Hammurabi TCG, who, believe it or not, is been giving out deals like nobody's business. So if you aren't doing any business with Hamal, you definitely should be. Try to find them on Facebook and get some cards from them. They have a really, really awesome price point, and I wouldn't have the deck I have if it wasn't for the quickness and the sheer accuracy of Hammurabi TCG. So thank you so much for that. But there are plenty of sellers. Some of your locals might even be willing to sell you cards for significantly cheap. Some locals might just be willing to trade cards. Trading cards is still a thing that people can do. And if there are cards that you have that somebody else wants, you might be able to make a pretty nice trade over that. But don't ever overbuy for a card, right? The important thing there is that you should never spend more than you're willing to on a card, unless, of course, that's the only price it's going to be and it'll never go down. Then save up for it. Be responsible when you're buying these cards because it's a lot of money. A lot of these Marvels and these fableds and cold foils, they're a lot of money on the open market. So do make sure that you are only spending the amount that you are comfortable spending and that you're not going to go in debt because of it. My third tip for new beginner collectors is to not play Classic Constructed. That's right. You heard me. I said it. Don't play Classic Constructed. Classic Constructed is a money sink. All right. The format itself is incredibly competitive, and a lot of the cards that you need in order to be competitive are expensive. And I won't deny the fact that, hopefully we'll see some reprints down the line of some of these more expensive cards. But when you look at something like a Codex of Frailty or a Levels of Enlightenment, if you don't end up playing either of those classes or talents, they end up just being cards that sit with you, and then you'll have to sell anyway. So if you're trying to start collecting more than you are trying to start becoming a pro player, because of course you could just take your pro player money and use it to spend it on singles for collections, but in most cases you're using that money for travel. So I don't suggest buying any kind of collections at that point if you are a Pro Tour champion or anything of the sort. But playing budget formats like Commoner or even Clash is a great way for you to still be able to play with friends or play even at your locals if they support those formats, and being able to just enjoy the game of Flesh and Blood at an incredibly budget level. In most cases, decks cost somewhere between $10 to $30. So if you end up being bored as hell of playing Icelander, you can then go ahead and just switch over and play something like Rhinar for little to nothing. And in most cases, if you're utilizing the bulk that you got from your locals back in the time with that first tip that we talked about, then you're going to have most of the cards already to be able to build any of these decks for nothing. You're going to be able to get it nearly for free. So it is very important to note that your bulk can go a long way into things like this to playing budget formats. And playing budget formats is not only still very exciting, but on top of it, it's also rewarding because all of that money that you would be spending on Classic Constructed staples is now being spent on only one copy of those Classic Constructed staples for something like a master set, if that's what you wanted to get, or any of the Marvels or anything like that. So if you're really able to change your mindset and play at a more budget-friendly format, then that's super great. That's going to help you out a lot when you're trying to collect in Flesh and Blood. My fourth tip for Flesh and Blood collecting is none other than to wait until a hero is no longer relevant. I know it's a bit of a long one, but for those of you who don't know anything about Flesh and Blood, heroes are pretty much the thing that runs most of the show, and their classes and talents that are tied with them help determine the value of these cards in their class and or talent, especially if they're winning a lot of big organized play events. For instance, all the people who are playing Zen and New right now in the top tables of Flesh and Blood, their cards are incredibly expensive because the decks are very, very good and consistent. They prove to have good results, and they are the fan favorites at the very moment. With these things being the case, you have certain cards going up significantly in price. Levels of Enlightenment is a really, really expensive card right now because both of those heroes are Mystic talented. You have Codex of Frailty, which has gone up in price significantly because of New being a assassin. And even when you look at heroes like Azalea is also able to use Codex of Frailty, and it's just a super powerful card. You have other powerful mystic cards that you can find inside these sets. I know we talked about Levels of Enlightenment. Even Traverse the Universe is another card that both of these heroes can utilize, in which it's a super powerful block card that allows you to just get a chi. It's a legendary piece of equipment. So that's expensive at this very moment. But mystic heroes will not be the meta forever. Right? They will not be the meta forever. As a matter of fact, most people tend to switch to what is more meta relevant when they find it. So as soon as their hero is no longer relevant and isn't doing as well at the top tables and has awful matchups into the people who are at the top tables, they tend to just give up on that hero and sell all of the things they have so they can buy new things with the new meta deck. So that's very important to note. If you are looking online and you're trying to find some stuff, look at people who are making those classic constructed tier lists. People who believe that, you know, Viserai at the lower parts and Betsy's at the lower parts and Bravo's at the lowest parts. And if any of those classes that you personally have wanted to play or have been wanting to at least pick up for collection purposes, get any of their equipment or their Majestics or any legendaries from that class or the talent, then check to see what people are saying about the heroes class and talent. So for instance, Boltyn was kind of lackluster for a good portion, and then it came back for a while with heavy hitters, and now it's gone again. And now that they have a new armory deck for Boltyn, people are seemingly picking up a little bit more on wanting to play it, but that won't be forever. Eventually, Boltyn will come down to the bottom unless he ends up being crazy powerful and rises to the top. And then you'll be able to buy those things like, you know, Soulbond Resolves and all these crazy nice light warrior equipments and Majestics and things like that that are specific towards that hero. So that's kind of the biggest one, I would say. It's probably like one of my favorite tips to tell new players is if you're trying to collect, or even if you're trying to play in Flesh and Blood, play something that is not meta relevant, because the cards are often inexpensive and easy to get because people are trying to sell off so they can get into the new hot thing. And that's a great way for you to start your own collection. Speaking of finding some deals, I definitely suggest finding deals on Majestics and Legendaries. What I mean by that is that really just double check to see the price of these things and determine whether or not it's right for you to buy them. I know we talked about that a little bit prior in one of these things, but it is insane to me when people see stuff like, you know, Majestics that are under $1 that are generic, that nobody is picking up. Because if you're trying to make good money in Flesh and Blood, and you're trying to at least, you know, I don't usually suggest doing any kind of speculating on cards, but if there are Majestics that are under 50 cents or under $1, or hell, even under like $2 or $5, oftentimes those Majestics are just not utilized well in the format right now, and will be later on because somebody out there is going to break these cards. And when they do, that 50 cent, that dollar Majestic is gonna skyrocket to see, we've even seen it go up to like $9 and $10. So if you end up buying 10 of those 50 cent Majestics, and then they all get jumped up to $10 a piece, and people are buying them at $10 a piece, you've made out like a bandit, and that's pretty good. So not only is it good for collecting, but it's also very, very good for just general sales data. If you are trying to buy cards when they are low and then sell them when they're high, that's just economics, baby. That's how that works. But overall, that's kind of my information on how to best give you some tips as a beginner collector for Flesh and Blood. I know it's not always easy doing a lot of collecting, and things seem like, you know, you have to jump on them super quick, and there's a lot of FOMO involved when it comes to some collections. But if there is something that is true along all things, amongst all TCGs, doesn't matter what it is, just make sure, and this is tip number 6, collect what you love. All right? It doesn't matter if you want a master set or if you just want to collect cracked baubles like somebody I know, or you want to collect merciless battle axes in whatever form they come in, or you want to collect Talishars, or you want to collect, you know, the shitty Christmas present promo that exists. It doesn't matter what you want to collect, right? As long as you're still being responsible and you want to get as many of these cards as possible, then it is an opportunity for you, right? Collect what you love, enjoy the game for what it's worth, and then you can utilize that to your best later on in life. If it's truly something that brings you joy, and if the, you know, the merciless battle axes that you have been collecting for, you know, years now have done enough for you to make you happy and that you continue to pick them up every now and again when you have the opportunity to, then that's great, because that's really what it's all about. You know, it doesn't matter if it's all non-foils or marvels. Whatever you want to do, you just have fun collecting, and that's what that's the core value of collecting, is enjoying what you have. And then sometimes you get something really, really special, and then you just keep that thing super secret and safe. But you don't have to worry about conforming to anybody else's collection standards. You don't have to worry about conforming to a master set standard. You don't have to worry about conforming to only the shiny stuff. You can collect whatever the hell you want. And I mean that. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was a fairly informative video for you. And of course, if you have any questions in regards to the topics that I talked about, please let me know in the comments down below. I love to chit chat with all of you as much as I hope you guys like to talk to me. And I hope we can just get some good discussion going on in the comments section. But otherwise, if you enjoyed this, please make sure to hit the like button down below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you have not already for more wonderful collector information. And then you can even become a channel member. Channel members do get early access to our podcast, The Common Language, where we talk more about flesh and blood and the state of things. And if that is a fancy thing for you, you can go ahead and do that. Of course, I do eventually release that podcast to the public. So if you want to wait, that's fine. You don't have to become a channel member if you don't want to, but it helps keep the lights on here, and it would certainly mean a lot to me. So thank you all so much, and I hope you continue having fun collecting in flesh and blood. And I will see you all in our next video for the remainder of the Collector's Week of 2024.